Hi, Max Brantley on Monday, February 20th from the Arkansas Times with news from Arkansas and beyond. It's so-called President's Day, Washington's birthday. That's a national holiday. I note that The Daily Show observed the event by talking about great quotes from presidents past and present. They juxtaposed Abraham Lincoln's famous Gettysburg Address with a famous quote by Donald Trump on Access Hollywood talking to Billy Bush about what he did to women. Enough said about that. Donald Trump does keep talking. He had a big rally in Florida over the weekend. He spent a lot of time complaining about Hillary Clinton, a lot of time complaining about the national news media. Complained about fake news and then provided some himself about some supposed type of violence that occurred the night before in Sweden wasn't true. This refers to a right-wing's long-held view that Sweden, which is far less dangerous than Arkansas, to name one, has somehow been ruined by the influx of immigrants it's welcomed. There's bigger news on the presidential front, a lot of stuff bubbling on Russia, much more reporting on ties by Trump's inner circle to Russia, particularly in its designs on Ukraine. This is stuff that may not be illegal. We're not saying that yet, but it certainly raises questions about Trump's affinity for what had once been our enemy and is now apparently a great friend of ours, the authoritarian Russia and its leader Vladimir Putin. More news and budget documents indicate that some people in the Trump administration at length are targeting the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and the National Endowment for the Arts for budget cuts. That's bad news for a lot of people. That happens. How will we get Lawrence Welk without CPB money? The crackdown on immigrants continues. It may or may not involve the National Guard, as was once mentioned, but it's certainly getting tough. It includes cracking down on a woman going to a courthouse in Texas and seeking to get protection from an abusive boyfriend. ICE officials were waiting and they arrested her. Some justice. This is legal, of course, if you have grounds to stop an immigrant for being in the country without proper authorization. In Arkansas, it looks like there's been a so-called compromise. It's not much of one for people who are against this idea altogether to allow the carrying of concealed weapons on college campuses. Trent Garner, the Tom Cotton employee, and the ultra-right and an otherwise totally right-wing legislature has come back with an amendment to the campus carry bill that now says anybody older than 25, student, faculty, campus visitor, can carry a concealed weapon on a college campus in Arkansas, a public one that is, if they've had an additional 16 hours of training from the state police. Jeremy Hutchinson, who amended the bill last week to add a training requirement that sponsor Charlie Collins didn't like, sees this as a better alternative. He doesn't think many people will take up the offer of getting additional training to be on campus. He reasons that people are going to shoot up a campus, are going to do it with or without a permit anyway. We shall see. The campuses won't like this, but it may be the best they can come up with. The gunners will not have to tell campus people that they're carrying a gun on campus. The earlier amendment would have required that. Speaking of Tom Cotton, he will, after all, have his town hall meeting. It will be Wednesday in Bentonville. It'll be at Bentonville High School at 5 o'clock. He's moved it almost to Missouri, as far away as possible as he can get from Democratic voters in Arkansas. But he will take questions. It might be interesting. Those who've sought this meeting say they're going to be civil. Maybe we'll have a good discussion. We need one. Continue reporting on the General Improvement Fund scandal. This is how legislators have spent the state surplus money for local purposes and in sometimes very questionable ways. Jake Files of Fort Smith is under observation in a Democrat Gazette story for directing subcontractor bids to gift money for a project to build a sports center in Fort Smith. It's his project. Doesn't look very good on the surface, sort of a conflict of interest. At least he's got troubles in his private contracting business. He certainly faces a lot of questions on that front. But the bigger news is that there's widely expected to be more indictments soon in felonious use of the surplus money. That is, legislators like Mike and Neal who've taken kickbacks from guiding money to nonprofit enterprises, not ready to name names yet. Add Mike Mills of the Buffalo Outdoor Center in Newton County to your list of good guys. He's joined many others in the tourism industry in saying that passing a bathroom bill in Arkansas, that is, ones that would restrict transgender people to using restrooms that comport with their birth identity, is bad for business, bad for tourism, bad for Arkansas. He spoke up very strongly in a letter we published on the Arkansas blog Sunday. You can take a look at it there. And finally, speaking of guns, this perhaps has some relevance to how much guns keep you safer on campus if people are armed. There was a party Saturday night at the Marriott Hotel in downtown Little Rock on the 17th floor. And as sometimes happens at so-called parties, tempers flared, people had disagreements, arguing was heard, and then shots broke out. Lots of shots. Police investigating later found a number of spent 9mm shells from a Luger pistol and other weapons. But walls were shot up, but nobody was hurt. At least 6 people were seen fleeing the scene by people who looked through the peepholes of their doors. So, you know, maybe it's a good thing that people aren't so good with use of guns when they have them handy. If with 6 people at close range firing at each other couldn't hit each other, maybe we aren't so endangered by guns, except for the innocent walls that might be struck. I'm Max Brantley. I'm one of Donald Trump's enemies of the state, I guess. Until tomorrow, resist.